External. Record. That big monitor doesn't come on anymore when you hit external? It's a sign if it doesn't. It's just off, that's all.
Does that mean it's not on?
I saw it come up on rim too as soon as I hit external, but I just didn't see the big monitor.
You might want to flip coming up soon.
If we're up on 2, we're good. What did you say?
I was going to say you might want to flip.
No, flip the switch. All right, 1 second here. We'll be starting. Unmuting.
Now from Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
Welcome everybody. Sports Tonight here on this Wednesday. I'm sports producer Scott Pennyman here for the first time in a long time.
Has it been a while?
I don't even remember the last time me and you did Sports Tonight together. It's been that long. But anyway, here we are.
Here we are.
How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling fantastic after that great Dream game last night. I was there in person, the home opener.
know.
They beat the Wings.
Clip
We're
the
not going
Wings.
to talk about that yet, but it was just, I will say, towards the end there when they took the lead and the game got close, that place got juicy.
Got you excited?
It got juicy in there. Like it
Nice.
was nice. It was a nice little atmosphere.
All right, cool. Well, we'll get back to a little more
One
about
thing
the
at a
Dream
time.
here. One thing at a time here. It's hard to handle all these things at once, all right? I mean, we have to start at the top. Falcons, OTAs is continuing this week out in Flowery Branch. A very, very hot Flowery Branch because that's where I was the last couple of days. 90 degrees out there in that sun, watching the guys run around their pads and stuff. Of course, everybody looks good in these off-season workouts, right? I mean,
It looks like Kirk Cousins never injured himself, right?
Yeah, he looks great. He's out there throwing the ball good. I saw him looking good with his receivers, throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts and Drake London and distributing the ball. But the one thing you can see, though, with Kirk Cousins, though, is it looks like you have an established leader out there, right? I mean, a guy who people respect, a guy who people trust as a quarterback. And you can just see that in the practices. Like, there's a difference. I mean, last year with Desmond Ridder and Heineke and those guys, I mean, it's just a different feel. I don't know. It's hard to describe because it's one of those things where you just have to,
Is
saw
it
how
hard to
things were last
describe?
year.
I think it's easy to understand when you
Well-
have a proven leader versus baby leaders.
Yeah, it's people who, I think the guys don't know about. The guys, trust is different when there's a quarterback who people have seen be successful before. And I think that's more so what we're seeing. When you see Kurt interact with the guys in the huddle, I mean, it's just, there seems to be a different level of control. And that's what you get when you bring in a franchise quarterback, a guy who's had success before. He's a guy who knows what he wants. He knows what looks right as far as the way an offense, the way a team is supposed to look. And he does the right things. I mean, just for example, he talked about, and I think in our sound clip here, Coach Morris will talk about this more, just gathering the guys this offseason to go down and watch film with former NFL great coach John Gruden, right? I mean, that's just something that, I don't know that younger quarterbacks have that respect. Well, guys will follow him and go, okay, let's do this offseason. But
I don't think younger guys know that's an option, Scott.
Right, that's true, too. And they probably don't know John Gruden, too.
They don't have those tools, they're too young for that.
Right. They don't have those connections. They don't have those tools, and they don't know what it is to be, pretty much when you're a franchise quarterback in the NFL, you're pretty much, I don't want to say the CEO of that football team, but you kind of are, right? Because they're going to go as far as you take them.
Yeah.
So,
And there are some quarterbacks who understand that sooner than others.
Yeah. I mean, and I think when, but Kirk Cousins being 35, and those guys have seen him have success. And, oh, by the way, guys like Kyle Pitts, guys like Drake London, they're probably set, or they probably believe that they're going to have their best year in the league so far with Kirk Cousins because, look, you've seen really good receivers have big years with Kirk Cousins. I mean, in Washington, guys around him had some big seasons. In Minnesota, Justin Jefferson had big seasons with him. So if you're Kyle Pitts, if you're Drake London, you totally believe that you're going to have a big season because of Kirk Cousins, So, and not to mention the defensive side of the ball, too. That's one of the things that's been Raheem Morris rebuilding the defense in the name of how he wants a defense. He wants longer guys. He wants more athletic guys. He even said in a press conference this offseason, he says getting longer, more athletic defensive players, especially defensive linemen. He said that different studies indicate that those guys miss less tackles. So their emphasis was to get longer, more athletic guys on the defensive side of the ball, and they did that.
Yep.
For sure. So, look.
I was gonna say, let's hear it from him.
Right, because
Let's hear it from the man himself.
I'm pretty sure Raheem has a better read on his team than I do. Even though I've been out there. And look, I love Coach Morris. I mean, everything you talked about with Coach Morris before is spot on. He's a solid dude. Coach Morris at OTAs talking about his team.
You want a little opener?
Yeah, a little.
Having a lot of fun, going into another week of OTA days. Really similar to last week. I think you guys are coming out again today, I believe. And feel free to walk around to get the chance to see it. David kind of holds you guys back, but I want you guys to be able to look at it and see it. I'm not going to the other field to hide from you guys. Just going over there to make sure the grass is good. So, come on over and see it, and just stay out the way led and make sure you don't get hit.
All right, that's a good start. Not to get hit. Hey, Coach, how has AJ Terrell's offseason been for you as one of your mainstays at cornerback?
He's been doing a really good job. AJ's so locked in. I know you know him as a guy and a human and a person and all those type of things, but the player and the thoughtfulness that he puts behind everything that he does it's really been it's just to a different level since I've even been back. When we drafted him, he was really that way. He came in with a real good mindset, came in with a really good demeanor on who the player was. His toughness was well documented. I remember we gave him his only knock on him was the game that he got beat in pretty bad when Chase and Justin Jefferson worked him over in that championship game, and we know those guys have become. But his ability to go up there and with the effort and the energy that it takes to go play that position has really been exciting to watch and exciting to see.
Right, you've had several stops now as a coach, both the head and the assistant. Is it fair to even grade where you are in the offseason as far as the pace that you want to be to get ready for the regular season?
Not yet. You can, but I don't know if it would be fair. But who cares in fairness in this game, right? So it's just about getting ready to go out there and throw a heck of a training camp. And I think we're in position to do that. We're putting ourselves in position to do that. We got a few more weeks. Obviously next week we're taking that week off, getting them guys away, getting them a chance to get away, and then obviously getting them back for the final two to get about 4 more practices in that, some family things, some things with us, and to get us ready to go into a training camp and what is it going to look like. We're about not even at the point where you want to say you're ready for a training camp practice, but we're preparing to get ready for that, and I think these guys are in the mode of doing that right now.
You're remaking an entire culture, an entire image here in Atlanta. What are the challenges that you're facing at this point in the offseason?
Hard to say you're remaking a culture, right? The culture here is really, really, really well put together by top down from ownership, because I'm not changing what we do when it comes to ideas and innovating and people first mentality and some of those type of things. So I'm not going to do that, but we are adding to it. I think it's really important when you come and be a part of a culture that you add to that culture. And I want to bring a different vibe into this room. I want to bring a different vibe into our team. I want to bring a different vibe into how we view our football team. And those are the most important parts, right? So when I get a chance to sit in those rooms, when it's Terry, when it's Greg Beatles, when it's Rich McKay, when it's Arthur Blank, and all of those guys in the same room, really fighting towards the same direction, those are the things that we kind of tweak on how you can do those things as far as the football team. So to say that you're bringing a whole new culture, I would never say Arthur Smith's culture was bad. It was, for me, it was his style and his technique and the way he wanted to do things, and now it's just us changing what we want to do.
How does that culture translate to the football field and eventually equate to wins?
Really, it's really about relationships when it comes about that. So they don't care who you are, they know how much you care, and once they figure that out, you can't do anything irregular without having regular relationships. So our relationships got to be different. So those things all translate to the football field. They translate to wins. They translate to us being together. They translate to a bunch of fun. And that's what happens when you go out there and you win football games.
After we talked to you last week, we heard from Kirk and Drake and Kyle that they had gone down to John Gruden's office to work with him. Did you know that trip was coming? And what does that kind of say to you when you hear that they're going to go down there?
That was well documented. Though John is a football, junkie, so to speak, and his whole family was there. I got a chance to see Cindy, and I got the pictures back from the trip. And I love that Kirk goes down and took his guys down there because there's not a more exciting guy to talk to about football than John Gruden, and how much juice and energy he brings to it, and what he probably said to those guys, and some of the things in the messaging that's going to come along with that, and about how to be a winning offense and how to go about your business. I love when you guys go out and sort different information from different places. It's no different than a coach, and we do our own development, right? We get out and we meet with other staffs. We do different things. We hear different voices. We get different reasoning behind it. And like, John is one of my mentors and one of the guys that I grew up with, and one of the guy who hired me at my first job in this league, and got a chance to work with him for 6+ years. And I think anytime you can get around great football people with good football knowledge and great football knowledge, you take full advantage of it.
Kirk taking those guys down there, what does that say about his leadership style?
You know, I don't know if you can say any more good things about Kurt and his leadership style, just because he's absolutely phenomenal when it comes to those things and just how he goes about his business. He puts so much pressure on himself just on an everyday basis that you almost got to take some off of him and tell him it's okay to make a mistake. So like when he brings people out and does things like that, that's kind of, like we just talked about, irregular in the relationship forming. I think that's really good. I think that's really what you're looking for in your team and what you're looking for in your guys, to be able to go out there and explore and do different things.
With Troy, Nate, and Caden, how do you navigate the depth at the inside linebacker position with reps?
I mean, it's an awesome problem. I mean, these three backers, you know, and who knows, there may be more, but these three guys that got well-documented snaps for us, that's went out there and played a lot of football. It's so much fun to watch. To watch them communicate, to watch them do different things. They got different style to play. They got speed differences. They got all kinds of things. They got hand usage. They do so many good things. There's almost like 3 different coaches sitting in a room at the same time. And it is going to be exciting to get them on the field, you know, maybe all at the same time at sometimes, you know, because they have that type of ability that warrants more play time. And the only way you get that more play time, you get creative, you get innovative, you do some things that go back to your culture and how you want to get people to play and get people to go out there and be productive to win football games.
You said you wanted to add to the culture. What do you want to add?
You know, for me, it's about my own personal juice and my energy and that vibe, right? And like, I think that stuff is what changes kind of the game, you know? Like when I went to LA, I was lucky enough to go out there, fortunate to go out there with Sean McVay. You talk about a culture that was in place, the we not me mentality of Sean McVay, and then be able to go there and just be a part of his energy, his vibe, the communication at the highest level, you know, some of the detail that you're able to bring to it from how you want to go out there and execute. Some of the things that we're able to get together and be able to, you know, almost seamlessly do together on the football field is what you want to add to the culture. That's where you get a guy like Jimmy Lake and a Zach Robinson, who you're so closely tied to, and you spend so much time with Marquise Williams and get that type of feel with your coordinators, and that just goes throughout the building. And when that stuff starts to go throughout the building, you get these relationships that's just not regular. And it keeps going back to what you're talking about when you're talking about cultures. It's really the relationship piece of it and how you go play the game together. And I think those are the things that you really would love to add. And you add those things in these times, in these settings, and then you get a chance to see those things once you get to training camp, and then hopefully you get the fruits of that addition once the season starts.
We talked about AJ earlier. How do you assess the secondary in general so far?
Been excited. You know, since I've been here, you know, we've talked about really 2 phenomenal players that's really proven in the National Football League right now, Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell. And then you have some young guys really step up towards the end of the season. You're talking about Philip Clark, you're talking about Mike Hughes, you're talking about even Richie Grant up and down, DeMarco, and all these type of guys. And you've seen these guys go out there and really not get the full advantage to compete yet, because it's not to compete times in OTA days, but this is the time to go out there and show extreme detail in your work, to go out there and go through what your process looks like and how you want to go about that business. And I think that's what I'm seeing from those guys right now, right? We're working out, we talked about it a lot this week. It's kind of funny you mentioned that. We talked about our process, right? And what is a process? It starts out as an idea, right? And then after that, it turns to what we talk about is our execution. And then ultimately it goes back to that collaboration that we kind of talked about. And then after that, it's the inspiration. I mean, what is your why, right? And I'm starting to see that from the secondary and what they want to do and how they want to go about their business. And like them finding their rhythm and their process has been fun to watch. My assistant head coach, Jerry Gray, does a great job. And if you go in that room and you sit there and you watch the detail and the information that's put into that room, you come out feeling really good about it, especially being an old secondary guy, really having a high level of thought for those guys and being able to contribute to that room it's been special.
Any example of what you've seen from them that showed you?
You know, it'd be hard for me to give it to you an example without giving away information that what he does, because that's kind of his story. You know how he goes about his business, but his high level of teaching, his ability to sit in the back of the room and the question asked in the the communication back and forth from those guys, it comes out in Alfred and how he talks and communicates from the star position and really to all those guys and Mike and there's no fear in that room to ask questions. There's nothing going to be said in that room that the guys are really worried about communicating to each other. And it's almost like I'm getting out of here because I'm in the way, and these guys do such a good job with that it's so much fun to go into that you want to be in there more, but you want to give them their space as well.
As far as those guys finding their why, what have you seen that has shown you that?
These guys want to be great. There's no second thought when it comes to when you look at those guys work. And it started way back in the weight room when AJ and Alfred and those guys are all working out, and you just see a different DB come every day. Some of them I didn't know their names at the time and why they were in here, and Natron Brooks and some of these guys, and they're coming in the room, and you're like, all right, I think I know this guy, but like now you know him, and you felt like, man, these guys have been working at this term for greatness for a while, and it's not just individual greatness. I think it's going to be unit greatness that's going to translate over to what we do on defense. And we had an old saying back in the day that the secondary drives the bus, and I really see these guys driving that bus, particularly in this phase that we're at right now, right? They got the ability to go the fastest. They can go the hardest, right? Up front, a little bit harder now. That's not what it is, not a physical camp, but you certainly can show elite movement. You can show elite ball skills. You can show something that they want to be great, right? And that search for them guys to touch the ball and have the ability to go out there and get the ball back for our team, I think they're really searching for that.
From a coaching style standpoint, when you're at this point, you just talked about how hard they can go. I know every coach is intentful and purposeful in what they want to do here, but is there a level of intensity you want to see from these guys at this point, or is we still in building block phase where it's more about understanding things than it is necessarily about physical effort?
Yeah, I think the fit is not the effort part, because you can give effort, right? There's a spot to give effort that we have in practice, individual, right? And then it becomes a physical part in individual when you're talking about bags and how you hit that stuff, how you do those things. And then you got to tame it back a little bit. It becomes above the neck game, right? So what I'm really loving from these guys when we have the team settings is the above the neck part, right? Because there'll be nobody hit on the practice field. There'll be no collisions on the practice field. There'll be nobody on the ground on the practice field. So for me to talk about the physical aspect of those guys would be really premature. So for us to go out there and be able to get those things done that we want to get done as far as above the neck thinking, some of the tools, some of the movement, some of the versatility things that we can do from a standpoint from a individual and a group setting when they're together by themselves, I really think it's at a high level right now. Everybody has the same rules. You're not going to sit there and complain about those things. You play by the rules, and these guys have done a nice job of doing that.
Is it easier to grade guys above the neck at this point?
It certainly is, because you can hear the communication, particularly standing on the offense side of the ball. You don't get the call. You can hear the communication from the other side, what's going on, what calls they're making, who's communicating, why they're communicating. Are we executing the calls? Are we executing the communication? Are we getting the adjustments? Are we using all our tools? It becomes a lot easier evaluation from the secondary than it does from really almost just about anywhere else in this phase, if that makes sense.
I know that Kyle Pitts has high expectations for himself. You talk about energy and effort. What have you noticed from Kyle just in the way he's working right now?
He's really been fun for me personally to coach, right? I got this old receiver coaching me, and he's got this tight end that's got this receiver type abilities, and it's really been fun to coach him on details of routes and concepts that we got going, and it'd just be helpful in that manner. And I see a young guy that's eager to learn and want more, and his why is really him, his personal vendetta to get back. And I love that about him, because you gotta have a little edge, and he's starting to show that a little bit more every day. And the better we can get him ready to go in training camp, I think the team would be better. I think our city would be better. I think everything would be better for it.
You notice that the chemistry between he and Kirk is pretty good right now?
Hard for me to say chemistry, right? Kurt's in the process of going through it. And I'll just say this today, it was funny you asked. But Kurt right now has got these pictures in his head, and they're boxes, and they're X's and spots. And he's thrown to those spots, right? So say the chemistry's forming, that you can form a little bit in individual one-on-ones, and you can throw in the routes on there, which you guys will be able to see today, and some of those things. But I think the chemistry won't be really felt until training camp, right? They're starting to build on it, and I'm sure if you ask them a little bit later, they're going to tell you we're building chemistry. But, realistically from the outside looking in, kind of what you were talking about, it's like that stuff is really built in training camp, right? It's forged in training camp. You're starting to process right now, like we talked about, the idea of building chemistry, and then the collaborations happen with the verbal communication from Kurt when we get into the meeting rooms. I expect it to look like this and things of that nature. But the execution really has to start now, but really has to be finished in training camp. And, whatever the case may be with that.
You mentioned last week that Bajan's working through an ankle injury. What kind of timeline do you have for him, and what are the expectations for him during this time?
I'm hoping, really, really positive about it as well, too. Like the veteran minicamp, we'll get a chance to see something, some movement, some things of that nature. But he's progressing well. He's been out there. He's in great spirits. He's definitely learning the game above the neck. He's the first person to want to talk about it. So, that's coming. But, he is, you can't help but, smile when you see Bajan. That's just who he is. It's what he is. And, I got a lot of confidence that he'll be ready to go for our veteran minicamp. That'll get him a nice little break in between there. And we get to training camp. I'd love to see him rolling. And
a lot of emphasis has been on the offensive side and skill guys. But when you turn on the tape and you watch a guy like Drew, what is his importance to this offense, and what have you seen that you like on film for Dalton?
Oh, man. Just the whole O-line up front in general, just that cult of an O-line that we have with Led over there all walking around with no shirts on, grounding. It's a different feel, but Drew is definitely one of those leaders, right? I have no idea how we found two guys exactly like Chris Lindstrom and Drew when it comes to demeanor and it comes to personality and it comes to that grit and that grind that you need and that toughness up front to play exactly next to each other. But he is a perfectionist, right? And he wants to be graded, and he wants to be graded hard. He wants to be graded on every snap that he has to Kurt, whether we're in the gun, whether we're up under. He's looking for more of that chemistry that we're talking about we're talking about like a Pitts, but he's getting more of that with Kurt because that's more real football for him with the snaps, with the placement, where it wants to be, listen to the cadence, some of the rhythm and the routine that you get into. And I can feel that together, even though it was in a jog through slower tempo settings, hand usage, things of that nature. That's been fun to watch with just that whole group in general. But when you bring up Drew, I've been really impressed because that was one of the few I didn't know.
I want to go back to just go back to, you mentioned inside linebackers a bit ago. Troy in particular, what have you seen out of him? And is he one of those guys, I know you can't give away the secrets right now, that makes I can get creative with this guy, lights start blinking?
He does, nobody has any real secrets anyway, right? But, Troy is extremely fast, he's quick, he's got great short space quickness, and I see the real intent to work on his, what we call shoot awareness, right? That's keeping the ball in the chute, tackling on the right side of the shoulder, using the right shoulder. And right now we can't tackle, but you just love the approach. And you love all the things that he's going through his mind and the intent for the ball, his communication level. He got two really great communicators around him, and Nate, and you're talking about Ellis. Those guys communicated at the highest level, so I'm starting to hear his voice become louder and things of that nature. So they're excited to watch it. And obviously he's healthy, so that always helps. But watching those three guys out there, man, it's been fun to watch. You're talking about some big humans that can move really quickly and do some special things, particularly with the ball and getting in the way passing lane, some of those natures.
All right, Emily, you want to talk about the Dream earlier, right? I mean, the Dream
Yes.
clipping the wings last night. They had to come back late in that game. Early in the game, Coach Tanisha Wright talked about they weren't really they didn't have that defensive aggressiveness that she wanted. They were able to score some points, which is a good thing, but they weren't as aggressive defensively. But in the second half, they got things together and got the win.
Listen, they hadn't beaten them, the Wings, that is, since 2022. 6 straight losses against the Wings.
That's brutal.
And I thought it was going to be 7, to be honest with you, because that's what it looked like through almost 3 quarters of ball. But they pulled it off, and I think this is a huge morale booster for them. Not that they needed it, because right now the team is has high expectations, and they want to fulfill them, and they have energy and all of that. But I think a win like that does a lot for you, especially after 6 straight losses against a team. Not to mention those losses also came in the postseason last year, their first visit in 5 years, and the Wings knock them out. Win twice against them, and because it's the best of 3 in that first round, and then they sent Atlanta packing. So I think it felt good for them. Of course, I asked that after the game. I was like, "Hey, how did it feel to beat a team that swept you guys last year?" And Tanisha was very quick to be like, "New year, it doesn't matter. We're not looking at that." But I don't buy that. I think that there is something to being able to beat a team that's beaten you 6 times in a row. Yeah. And Enrique Agumbawale is a straight baller. Yeah, I mean, she is on another level. And being in her presence and watching in person, I mean, you see how good she is. Coast to coast, she will just disrupt offense, defense. She is so good on both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched her like score and then run to the other end and get a block and then like go. I mean, she's just so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, look, that was a big win, and hopefully at 2-1 they can keep it going and just keep.
They play Sunday at home.
They play Sunday.
In a good atmosphere, by the way.
Absolutely.
Really good atmosphere.
The crowd looked like it was going crazy.
They were loud. The DJ was good, playing good songs. People were dancing in the stands.
That's what you expect in
they were,
Atlanta.
yeah, they were having a great time. Ocho Cinco was courtside.
Oh, really?
So was Quavo. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Ocho Cinco is right next to Renee Montgomery, part owner of the team. It seemed like everybody was having a really good time. They do a good job there. It's sold out for a reason. I mean, yes, people want to watch these women play, but also, I mean, it's worth going to because it's almost like a club. It's fun. The music's on and the bass is loud. I mean, when I was doing live shots, once they put the music on, I couldn't hear anything.
Hey, look, that's the WNBA needs more of that. But if you listen to people like former Atlanta Hawk point guard Jeff Teague, obviously, the big hoopla coming this year was obviously the new rookies coming to the sport, headlined by Caitlin Clark, obviously Angel Reese too. So Caitlin Clark's team, the Indiana Fever, have started the season 0-4. They're struggling. They're on the struggle bus. I mean, they've been really, and teams have been really physical with Caitlin Clark. Now, obviously, there were so many of the things that came out earlier in the season where players were maybe a little. Let's just call it for what it is. Probably a little jealous of a lot of the attention that Caitlin Clark has gotten, things that she was able to help get done. I mean, chartered flights and all that stuff. A lot of those things, people feel like those things were done because Caitlin Clark was coming to the league. And so Jeff Teague on his podcast said that he thinks the WNBA is totally messing this up. He says, look, they have to play the game within the game. Understand that, yes, you want to come out there, play hard and aggressive, but you got to also understand that Caitlin Clark is going to be your moneymaker. She's your golden ticket to get a lot of things that you want as far as the league growing, as far as more money for players and just a lot of things that they want. And he suggests that they have to play the game within the game. Maybe just let her get off a little bit, or maybe the refs should maybe give her a little bit of preferential treatment, maybe the Jordan treatment, maybe the LeBron treatment, the Kobe treatment, to basically go, hey, let her shine some, because if she shines, that's good for everybody.
I don't know. That's a tough one for me, because if I'm one of the best in the league, I want to play her tough.
Be a competitor.
Right. I mean, that's what you've learned your whole life, right?
Sure.
Is if you want to be the best, you got to compete against the best, and you got to beat the best. So if she's in here right now, considered to be the best, even though she hasn't even left her mark on the WNBA yet, she was the best coming in, right? She was the best college basketball player, possibly of all time, or in this generation, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But now she needs to leave her mark on the W, and that's just starting. And if I were, a woman playing in that league, I would not let off. I just wouldn't, because I know those highlights are going to be shown at night.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy though. I mean, they've been crazy physical. I mean, setting hard picks, and she's been roughed up a lot in these first 4 games.
That I agree with. But I think there's something to that. Like, players who want to play against other good players that kind of way. And so maybe this is just her introduction to the W, and her, I mean, I don't know, or
now just think about
initiation.
it though, Emily. But just think about it though. In the 1980s, a lot of people complained that Michael Jordan was playing against those bad boy Piston teams, getting knocked to the ground. What did the NBA do? They changed some rules because they understood that Michael Jordan was the key.
Rules too,
Exactly. So I mean, there's a precedence for pro sports leagues, even bigger than the WNBA, implementing rules to help secure their stars and making sure that their stars are out there being the best that they can be. So I don't think Jeff Teague is too far off the mark. Now, I don't think people should be letting her win, no, but I think you have to understand that your key to so many great things with the WNBA is people like Caitlin Clark. So I think maybe he has a little bit of a point. I mean, don't let her score, don't let her do what she's going to do, but also understand that if she does thrive, that's good for everybody's pockets. I'm just saying, So real quick before we get out of here, the NBA obviously is going over some new TV deals here. They may be leaving TNT. We'll see. That's not official yet. But when you look at some of the publications today, if the NBA gets the deal that they're looking for, which is, I guess they're pretty close to it, it'll be about 3 times the amount of their deal right now, which would mean the new NBA Supermax would hover around $95 million. Emily, do you still have a good jump shot?
Compare that. Can you compare that to what it is, though, so people can understand?
Yeah.
what it is
So right now
or
the
the
NBA
last time?
right now the NBA Supermax hangs between $50 and $60 million for if a player is eligible for the NBA Supermax. So we're talking about $30 to $40 more million per season if you're eligible for that Supermax. Now everybody's salaries is going to go
I
up
think
regardless.
it's important to say that so people can understand.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
That's fat.
Right, right,
that's
exactly.
Thick. That's a thick little raise right there.
Now, with the TV contracts, everyone's money is going to go up regardless, whether you're a Supermax player or not, because obviously the NBA players,
the
they get 51% of the revenue, so everyone's salary is going to go up. But that's just crazy to go from 50 or 60 million to almost $100 million per season if you're in that Supermax territory. That's kind of crazy.
Hold some.
Exactly. But we got to get out of here. We're moving really fast. I mean, those are topics that we could discuss forever, but we can't. So, Emily, it's been great once again. I know we don't get a chance to do sports tonight a lot, but
It's been sweet.
let's do it again soon.
Adios.
See y'all.